My policy and platform is simple. First and foremost, I want to get rid of the property tax. Once you own your home, or actually, let's start from the beginning. Once you purchase your home, you shouldn't have to pay a property tax residually every single year just to live there. It's not an apartment. You shouldn't be paying rent on your property. You own it, okay? That's first and foremost. Now, the governor can't just wave a magic wand and make property tax go away. This would have to be done through the Georgia Assembly, which means I would have to go around to every single congressman and propose my idea to get rid of the property tax so their county or city or whatever continues to bring in income. I have an idea for that. Stick with me. I want to get rid of the state income tax. Most of the projects that we spend money on here in Georgia is a waste of money, and the majority of it's getting kicked back to some billionaire who's collecting our tax dollars in their pocket anyway at the end of the day. We don't need it. Georgia doesn't need an income tax to run on and to be stable and to continue funding projects. We just don't. Most of that money gets sent to the federal government anyway, and then gets siphoned off to Israel, I have to bleep that part, so excuse the bleep, but it's the it's the blue and white country that's supposed to be our greatest ally, which doesn't even have an official ally treaty agreement with us. You can look that up and fact check me, 100% true. Our greatest ally is not our ally at all on paper. Then I want to create a hemp program. Create incentives for the hemp program. I want farmers, Georgia local family-owned farms, to grow hemp to where we can take that hemp and produce fuel and ethanol gasoline for our vehicles. And we would incentivize farmers by giving them tax breaks and, giving them actual money for growing the crops that would fuel all of our cars. Hemp is an extremely renewable resource that can create a ton of different products, a wide variety, a huge array of products. We can create clothing, textiles, plastics. We can create food for livestock, gasoline, hempcrete to create houses with. You name it, the possibilities with hemp are endless. Then I want to create a cannabis program, a recreational and a medicinal program. My friend David Rodabaugh over at Grassroots Association has already written out the Georgia Cannabis Freedom Act, which would actually benefit every single Georgian in the state. I encourage you and implore you to go over to his website, grassrootsassociation.org, and read the Cannabis Freedom Act and see if that doesn't sound good to you. What we do with that tax, or that cannabis tax, is that would be what goes to replace the Georgia state income tax and the property tax. We'd use cannabis and hemp to replace those taxes. Furthermore, I would make it damn near impossible for data centers to be built in Georgia. Again, the governor can't just wave a magic wand and start banning things left and right. That's not how our Constitution works. It's not how our state works. And it would definitely get tied up in the court systems if I were to try to just overstep and do something of that nature. However, what I can do is force Georgia Power to negotiate buildings, new infrastructure to be paid by them or the companies that would own it, not the taxpayer. i.e., sign a bill that codifies those protections into law, close any loopholes, and explicitly bar taxpayer fund infrastructure build-out on these projects, if the residents even want them to begin with. So, there's a ton of residents, there's a ton of Georgians right now attending all sorts of city councils, pushing back against data centers because we know they're just bad. They're a waste of space. They use a ton of resources. They're not going to create jobs minus the infrastructure build out. Once those infrastructures are built out, AI will actually end up taking more jobs than it creates. I promise you. If you're in any type of computer, manual typing, input data, web development, even beyond that, AI is slowly creeping in and taking over little by little, and it's only a matter of time before those jobs become obsolete and our youth is faced with a very serious problem. Next, I want to stop purchasing Israel bonds. Hear me out. Stop purchasing Israel bonds with state funds and prohibit state tax dollars from directly funding Israeli government projects or programs. While Israel continues to bomb the world, whether you support them or not, that's not for me to discuss with you. I would hope you would be able to see the bigger picture and see that they're the aggressor. For the longest time, I supported Israel until I actually learned the truth of what's going on. And all you have to do is look at Gaza to take a look and see what's actually going on over in the Middle East and what they're doing with Lebanon now, how they sabotaged the peace treaty negotiations with Iran by continuing to attack Beirut and so forth. If you're paying attention, you know. If not, I absolutely encourage you to start paying attention because the situation is extremely real. With all that being said, that's pretty much what I have to lay out. I'm running for governor. I want to implement these changes. I would work with the Georgia Assembly, and I want to provide relief to Georgians, along with creating programs that would boost our economy and just put Georgia back on the map. I believe if the whole United States were to implement this as a whole, you would see the price of gasoline as my friend Aviva likes to call it, down to probably 10 to 20 cents a gallon, and your oil change probably wouldn't be any more than $10. That is an extremely real possibility. Not only that, but the prices of housing would come down because we could literally grow the material that we needed to mix with concrete called hempcrete, which is fire retardant and pest retardant. So you're not going to get pest, mold, mildew, or fires the same way you would in a regular house just built on wood and the insulation and whatever else. The concrete, wood, and insulation is pretty much what a house is. Piping and, some wires. The hempcrete would actually help protect your house way more if a fire were to break out. It protects against pest, mildew, mold, all that. I've said that already. Look it up. It's great stuff. I implore everybody to take a look at hemp and to actually see what it can do as a natural resource for us. We used it all the way back in the Revolutionary War, all the way up to World War II. In fact, every time we've had a major war, for whatever reason, hemp became legal, and we started using hemp to win the wars. How do we win World War I and World War II? We started growing hemp to produce our textiles and our products to be able to help us win those wars. That's not the only reason, but it's a major part. And again, I suggest you look that up. We were using hemp fuel back then. It is a possibility. And then a certain particular group ended up taking control of our fuel industry and switching us all over to petroleum for one reason or another. We can get into that in another episode. Today's episode is just letting everybody know that I am running for governor of Georgia. I am tired of the two-party system. You should be too. Again, with the two-party system, you need to go through primaries. Those primaries are usually bought out by special interest and by big donors who want a particular candidate to represent them and not the people. Independents like myself cannot be bought out because I stand on principle. You can come to me with a $20 million check, more than that, and I will look you in the face and say no. And that is fact. You can test me if you want to. I don't care. This is not about me. This is not about money. This is about the people of Georgia and bringing the United States back to where it needs to be. And that's fact. Thank you very much again. Scotty Ellison running for Georgia governor 2026 as an independent.